gentlemen, welcome to the Town Hall, and perhaps I can express my gratitude first of all to the Constable for allowing us to use the premises for the purpose of this presentation. May I introduce, for those of you who do not know them, the members of the Electoral Commission. Firstly, Mr. Colin Stall, the Vice Chairman of the Commission, Connétable Julia Garichon, Mr. Ed Sallis, Professor Sallis, and next to him Deputy James Baker, and on the end Dr. Jonathan Rennert. We were appointed, as you know, by the States in May 2012 in order to review first the classes of States member, secondly their constituencies and mandates, thirdly the number of States members, and fourthly the terms of office. At the end of May we launched a 3-month public consultation on our terms of reference, and we were very pleased to receive more than 340 written submissions and to discuss with a number of those islanders their views at public hearings. I should like to express the panel's thanks to all those many people who took the trouble to write thoughtful and often very lengthy and helpful submissions, which have helped us a great deal in our task. So the purpose of today's presentation is to provide you with an overview of our provisional recommendations, which are set out in the interim report that we are publishing today, and which will be available for you when you leave the town hall this morning. We are going to hold public meetings in all the parish halls of the island during November, and we hope that those of you who wish to express views on the interim report and the provisional conclusions will attend those meetings and take the opportunity of discussing our draft proposals with us in more depth at that time. We will, of course, be taking account of views and reactions to the interim report, and as we develop our final recommendations, which will be published in December this year. We think that the provisional recommendations would lead to a fairer and more balanced electoral system, which would in turn strengthen democracy and democratic participation in the government of the island. So I turn to the current structure of the states, which, as you will know, is currently made up of 51 elected members, 10 senators elected on an island-wide basis, 12 connétables, each elected in their respective parishes, and 29 deputies elected on a constituency basis, either comprising the whole parish or split into districts. However, when it comes to sitting in the States Chamber, there is no difference between a senator, a connétable, and a deputy. All three have the same voting powers. All three can stand as a minister, scrutiny or committee member, and all three have equal rights to speak during debates. All have the same mandate of 3 years. So why should we change? Jersey's great strength down the centuries has been the ability to reinvent itself for the new times. From an economy based on wool in the 18th century to the rise of the Jersey Royal potato and the rise and relative fall of tourism, and lastly the creation of an profitable financial centre, Jersey has continually adapted to a changing world and made the best of opportunities available. But in the last 60 years, Jersey's role in the world has changed, and its political system has remained essentially the same. The last major reorganisation of the states was in 1948, when the jurats were replaced by the senators, the rectors were removed, and a number of additional deputies were appointed. There have been two fundamental changes since 1948, which suggests that now is the time for a bold and ambitious overhaul of the island's electoral system. The first is the doubling of the population, and the second is the transformation of a rural community to a more cosmopolitan urban society with a significant international profile. Jersey's future prosperity depends upon the ability of its government to engage with other nations and with international organizations to advance our interests. Our electoral system needs to encourage this engagement and to stimulate debate around the big issues that will unquestionably arise over the next few years. It is for that reason that we need to consider the current structure of the States Assembly, which is, after all, our national parliament. Under the present system, voter turnout is low. Around 63% of islanders were registered to vote in the 2011 elections, but turnout on election day averaged only 47% of those registered electors. The reform of our electoral system offers an opportunity to improve that situation. While there has never been an uncontested election for the position of senator, 6 of the 29 available deputy seats were uncontested in 2005, 4 uncontested in 2008, and 3 uncontested in 2011. The number of uncontested elections is even greater for Connetagh. Since 1999, there have been 61 elections for Connetagh, and only 18 of those were contested. In the first single election day for all 12 Connetagh in October 2011, only 4 out of the 12 parishes saw a contested election. At present, Jersey's electoral system is based on the 12 parish boundaries, which creates considerable difficulty in achieving equal representation. Some islanders are able to elect more members of the states than others, and the number of residents per deputy ranges from 5,003 in St. Peter to 1,752 in St. Mary. Having 3 different classes of states member seems to us unnecessarily confusing, especially when you consider that there is no difference between the rights of a senator, a deputy, and a Connetagh in the States Chamber. It is also our view that the states could operate as effectively with fewer members. The number of state members is due to be reduced from 51 to 49 in 2014, but the size of the States Assembly still remains greater than that of most other legislatures with representing similar populations. If no reforms are implemented before the next elections in October 2014, voters will be asked in those elections to elect 8 senators, 12 Connetagh, and 29 deputies on one single general election day. We are concerned that this would be an unsatisfactory way to elect the 49 members of the Assembly. Although voters used to elect 6 senators at one time, that was on a different day from the deputies' elections, and we consider that there is no prospect of having a meaningful election process to choose 8 senators and 41 other members on the same day. We think this is another urgent reason to agree on reform. So, what are the key principles which we have adopted? In formulating our draft recommendations, we have taken a number of overarching principles into account. While we recognize that it may not be possible to meet each one of those principles in full, they were essential in the development of our draft recommendations. And they are, first, that all electors should have the same number of votes. Secondly, constituencies should be of a broadly equal size. Thirdly, the system should be designed to ensure that, in general, no candidate is elected unless he or she can gain a reasonably significant number of votes. And fourthly, the electoral system should be simple, fair, and easy to understand. So those are the principles which we have tried to apply. And I'm now going to hand over to the Vice Chairman to explain our provisional recommendations.
It is our provisional recommendation that Jersey should be divided into 6 electoral districts in order to improve voter equality. A significant number of people who took part in our consultation were strong supporters of the island-wide mandate. However, it's not practical for all states members to be elected in a general election on an island-wide mandate in one day, and we would not recommend a return to a system of staggered elections at the expense of the introduction of a general election. The Commission believes that the creation of 6 large constituencies would result in all election candidates standing on a platform of island-wide issues. It is this national approach that seems to appeal to islanders when they consider the role of the present senators, and we feel that this attitude would be likely to be adopted by all candidates if they were to be elected on a large constituency basis. The creation of 6 constituencies would also almost certainly result in contested elections in every constituency. Under our draft proposals, the creation of the 6 districts would involve the division of St Helier into 2 districts based on existing mandate, and the grouping together of remaining parishes in order to achieve a more equal number of eligible voters per state's member. We recognise the strength of feeling that those islanders with their parishes, and for that reason our draft recommendation is that parish boundaries should be maintained when constituencies are allocated. As you can see from this graph, the disparity between the number of voters in each parish is vast, and as can be seen again from the graph, we have been keen to develop a system that will provide an equal number of voters for everyone, an equal number of votes for everyone, and as far as possible, equal levels of representation in the states for each elector. This graph shows the 6 districts being proposed by the Commission and the number of eligible voters in each of these districts. The number of eligible voters has been calculated by the State Statistics Unit based on the 2011 consensus, and we believe that this is the best figure to use in the creation of these divisions. The division of the island in this way distributes the population far more evenly than at present, and promises a basis for greater voter equality. The Commission's draft proposals or recommendations is that the number of states members should be reduced to 42, While the size of the States Assembly is not noticeably large in international comparison, it is greater than most legislatures of other democracies with similar populations. Submissions given to us have shown that Ireland is keen to see a reduction in the number of States members. At present, the number of States members is set to be reduced from 51 to 49 in 2014. The decision on the number of, or the appropriate number of States members is inextricably linked to the structure of government, as the correct number of members is needed to fill the available roles. In order to calculate the appropriate number of members of the Assembly, we estimated the minimum number of members that are required to fill the positions under the present machinery of government. This requires 10 ministers, 12 assistant ministers, 4 members of the Public Account Committee, 15 scrutiny panel members, and a chairman of the Privileges and Procedures Committee, a total of 42 members. At present, a States resolution provides that the number of backbench members must exceed the number of ministers and assistant ministers by a number of at least 10% of the total membership. With a membership of 42, there would have to be at least 5 more members who are not ministers or assistant ministers to achieve that. If the numbers of members is to be reduced to 42, it would be necessary for the number of ministers and or assistant ministers to be reduced to a minimum to a maximum of 18, or alternatively, for the existing 10% rule to be abolished. The Commission believes that 42 members should be able to meet the requirements of members' workloads effectively and continue to provide or enable proper political oversight of executive decision-making. It follows that the Assembly of 42 members elected in 6 districts would be made up of either 7 members per district or, alternatively, 5 members per district plus 12 commitator. This brings us to the controversial issue of whether or not the commitator should remain or continue to be ex officio members of the states. It is the Commission's provisional recommendation that Irelanders should decide in a referendum whether or not the commitator should remain members of the states. Commitator are elected as head of the parish and automatically have a seat in the States Assembly. Around half of the submissions received by the Commission said that the commitator should continue to sit in the states, although some also argued that, for their attention, said that they should have restricted powers as members of the Assembly. The other half said that commitator should focus on their parish role. If the automatic seat of the commitator is retained, this will result in an imbalance in voter equity that, under our large constituency proposal, would actually be even worse than the current imbalance. If it is removed, then constables who wish to sit in the states would be required to stand for election in the same way as any other candidate, so that a greater equality of voter equity could be established. However, it's also aware of the central role of the parish system in Ireland life. The Commission has concluded that the submissions made to it, that the issue is controversial, and that the decision should be taken by the electorate as a whole. It has therefore agreed that the correct way forward is to ask Islanders to make that decision in a referendum. The Commission wishes to affirm the decision of the states to move to a 4-year system of office, or 4-year term of office, for all states members, and for there to continue to be a general election. When calculating the correct term of office for states members, the Commission wanted to achieve a balance between allowing the electorate to express their views at regular intervals and allowing long enough between elections for the island's government to operate effectively and accountably. The majority of submissions received by the Commission favoured either the 4- or 5-year term of office for members of the states. It's also worth noting that the usual length of parliamentary terms internationally is between 4 and 5 years, with the majority of members opting for a 4-year term of office. The States has already decided to move to a 4-year term of office for all States members and a general election. The Commission agrees that this achieves the correct balance and sees no reason to overturn the decision of the States.